actual battle of trying to gain orb control so they can get more Phoenix ultimates than their opponents.
We'll keep a close eye on that. You mentioned it earlier too, but it's interesting to see some of the composition changes. Your boy Dre only plays Omen on Icebox up until this point, so to see him do so here on Ascent is really interesting. And then Stellar, who really doesn't normally play a duelist at all, normally sticks to the Omen and the Sage, opting to go for the Phoenix here that you were mentioning. So a couple of interesting role swaps, or at least agent swaps early on. We'll see how it plays out. Luminosity starting off on the defensive side. TSM looking to go aggressive, hot and heavy onto B. They're going to drop the Paranoia, dash their way in, and so far, nothing doing.
Yeah, it's definitely looking like it's going to be quite an effort to retake this site. Obviously, though, you're going to be thinking there'll be drills that teams will practice to prepare themselves for situations like this. So common to play that retake. So we'll see what they're able to do with this. Wardell ready and waiting there with that Frenzy. Frenzy's still very popular despite the price increase. And here they go, straight through. Your boy Dre trying to open up the action there. Jerome will be able to deal with him. And another one coming through as well. So TSM, it's all TSM in the kill feed at the moment. It's looking like a terrible start here for Luminosity.
Yikes.
But that's, I think, pretty fun to see, because I always like it when we get the attacker side, with that freedom, winning the pistol and then getting to set the tone straight away.
Yeah, and I think for Luminosity there, they had a decent go at it, right? Like they weren't fully funneled into only coming from the defender side spawn. They had market as well, and they just weren't really able to break in. It was pretty devastating, really, to see TSM pick them apart as effortlessly as they did. And now look at their buy-ups, Dan. A couple of Bulldogs, a Phantom into the fold as well. They're fully going in on on the benefits of what they just did.
Yeah, certainly. And we can see that initial pressure towards the A main orb. And there will be some pressure from presence felt on TSM's side of things. And they can take things slowly here. You can see the drone coming through to really see exactly what's going on. The orb's still up, of course. There's one tag. So not too much information there. Games. So TSM will have to slow things down. And in the meantime, they're working on that mid control. So it's all about that fact-finding mission. They have the clipboards out. They're trying to get that information. And so Bros has managed to creep forwards into that mid position, smoking off Pizza as well. And that's going to create possibly a response here from Luminosity. They need to start to figure out what's going on. And there's the push in A main.
Absolutely right, and here they come. Wardell's going to be the first point of contact, tags a couple, and then back up to safety. And Luminosity's doing the same. They got the info that they wanted, but it'll be interesting to see how heavy they rotate off of that. They know they're not going to push their way up towards A anymore. You hear the door going down. You imagine they're going to start to rotate over to B, and that's exactly where you see Luminosity coming. But Sub-Rose is the problem. He's the first one there. Took mid-control, able to take care of Thief early on.
And that is going to be now a very difficult site to retake and hold, as we see TSM having their way with it, and it's not going to be really all that much left for Luminosity here. They managed to get a kill out of this round so far, and that's okay, I guess. Ultimately, though, TSM will be quite pleased with how they played this. You can really tell the quality of a top team as to how they handle these anti-eco rounds, because there are so many ways it can go wrong. The other team has very little to lose, and we see TSM, they're playing the early game and the mid game, looking for information, reacting, playing adaptively, and that's extremely important as a skill set in Valorant.
And, Dan, it's interesting you say that, because given the fact that they were on nothing as far as buy goes, I really expected Luminosity to kind of play that a bit differently from the defensive side, but they were pretty standard in their setups. They didn't do anything aggressive or bold to try to catch TSM off guard. And as you mentioned, it's a huge tip of the hat for TSM in an advantageous position from a gun perspective to not do anything crazy, to be still methodical and still controlled in how they want to play it out, and walk away with such a convincing victory. It's just impressive.
I totally agree. It's something now where we'll start to get into the real Valorant too. We'll start to see how the same skill sets of playing adaptively, trying to pressure certain areas of the map, seeing what the response is from your opponent, trying to predict it, trying to set up traps, playing that mid-round situation out once you have the conclusion of that kind of early round phase. We'll start to see how these teams want to set the pace. And on this map, it has been the case for a long time that defenders in North America, just generally the meta has been fairly defensive. as opposed to going for more aggressive setups where you try to take control of these forward positions. So I'm curious if we'll see that from LG. I know that they do play a defensive game very effectively on this map. That's actually something that I first saw a Proto doing so effectively, is playing that B site and getting so much value just by himself. But we'll start to see initially off of the freeze time here that we'll have that A main aggression coming in from TSM, heavy pressure. I'm curious if they're just going to try to run it down. I would imagine it's more likely they just have players here so that they have enough to deal with A main control plays from their opponents. And once they've gained the orb control, they can then go into that mid control as well. So I would expect to see something, fairly standard in that way for TSM. And looks like we do have a pause here, so we've got lots of time to think about it.
Yeah, technical pause coming through from Luminosity. We'll get you all back into the action as soon as we can. While we get that figured out, Dan, let's talk a bit more about what we've seen so far. TSM in the bonus, right? They looked really good in the pistol, and I think the interesting thing is the calling card, if you will, for Luminosity has been how effective they are in the retakes. They shine defensively, and they're okay with giving up sights, as we saw in the pistol round of Ascent. But the truth is, that's where they shine, is in their ability to retake, and obviously that didn't go very well at all in the pistol. But Luminosity here, knowing that they have the gun advantage and knowing that TSM is on a bonus, do you see them doing anything different or anything spicy?
Yeah, it's always an interesting choice if either team decides to do something really crazy right at the beginning. And in a match like this, it's so important. You would expect that teams would try to take a bit more care, and they would want to try to set themselves up to play their game. And some teams do like to play a gambly style, and that is characteristic to them. But I would expect to see something slower here. We can see this initial A main control. It's pretty heavy pressure, and it is, as you say, the bonus. And they've decided to just go for it. And Tyrone is going to work this site to perfection. 3 entries, and just in a matter of like 5 seconds, the round's over, I feel like.
we teed that up so well, talking about pace and how LG was going to want to play it. And then TSM just decided that we're going to run it down LG's throats. They've got to run it back online from the chaos that just happened on A. They have full site control. Luminosity has no choice but to try to save and kind of roll their way into the next round. And remember, folks, this is TSM's bonus. They did that with Bulldogs.
Yeah, and that was actually one of those kind of mind game elements to the meta as well, because you could think to yourself, like in a matchmaking game or something, right? You're like, oh, you got the bonus situation, so you have worse weaponry than the opponent, so you want to try to control the situation. You want to just run it down. You want to get these close range engagements and use the numbers advantage to mitigate the fact that you've got worse guns. And however, at the pro level, there are mind games. Teams might have early round setups to deal with those rush timings. They have good protocols and defensive measures to deal with that. So you might not always do that. So it can be the case of, what's in the meta right now? What have people been doing in scrims and pro matches that might indicate whether or not a team will go for that? So it's quite fun to see that we just get this no respect version from TSM just going straight in. They do actually catch LG pretty off guard there. And as you said, so rightly, the run it backs online, that's a very bad sign for Luminosity, because TSM can do a lot with that.
They can. They're also 2 points away from Cutler having the Hunter's Fury, and it looks like for TSM, they're going from a powerful position to an even better one. So far up 3-0. LG, I believe they had those 2 rifles that they brought in from the save in the last round, but other than that, should be pretty meager as far as resources. Showing a little bit towards B, fighting a bit towards mid control, but so far, not a commitment either way. We might have a chance at something here, though. Man, it just takes one, and that's why the players on Luminosity look so good, because of stuff like that.
Yeah, and that's really disruptive for sure, and that's actually something a kill in the kind of early rounds can really create problems for lesser experienced teams. But TSM, they are anything but that. They are going to be very experienced. They know now, okay, we'll have to regroup, take some map control here, and use those numbers advantage, take some position, and get onto a bomb site at this point. And you have to try to figure out how can you best deal with these spots where Luminosity are going to be very happy to play one and done positions. So there can be these kind of landmines around every single corner. So it is quite stressful. But again, the experience will really help. You can see that TSM now working on the split towards the A site, able to go through the tree position, and they'll be able to come onto an A site that's not super well defended here. But with that said, Moose and your boy Dre able to make life rather difficult as the push continues to come through, and Moose has done so much damage, it leaves just Wardell in the clutch.
Wardell, no Blade Storm, but he does have a Vandal in his pocket in a 1v2. He's going to be able to get the spike down. He's going to back up, get the shot, leads to C1, looks for the second, leads one shot, dashes away, drops things down to a 1v1, but he's down to 30 health. He's going to have a chance, and Wardell goes huge for TSM as he gets 3.
That is so awesome for Wardell. The dash, man, I wrote him off completely, then the dash comes through to reset the situation. Beautiful work there. Really, obviously, he is the name on your lips whenever you're thinking about a Jet in North America, and definitely, you know, showing his value right there. And you know, I can't wait to see when the operator comes out exactly the shenanigans we may see from him in this matchup. But he has some knives available as well. And we're off to a 4-0 start here, so TSM in a really good position. And you know, they had heavy presence towards A on the last gun round, and then heavy presence towards B on the next one, and now they're going back to that A pressure towards Gelato and A main, looking for that AWP control. And we've got Drone ready with the run it back, and this is something that LG have to have taken into account. You can see they've got 2 players around tree. They can play a retake setup on A. They've got nobody on the A site. They are going to realize that Drone's going to make a play like this. Drone won't get too much value in terms of kills, but he's created the space, and there comes the Hunter's Fury as well to support.
It's going to create even more space, and now you see members of TSM make their way onto the site. The space that was created by Drone has been acquired. Hayes getting the best of Thief early on. A couple clean shots. TSM in firm control of it.
Yeah, I like the play from Thief there, because if he gets the kill, he can dismiss away. That does make the retake a lot easier, and that's kind of fundamentally one of the elements, one of the aspects of why you would pick Arena. And it's going to be a 4v5 retake, though, and they do have a Sova coming in for the recons, and I'm not sure if there's any shock darts available, but we'll see if they can make something work here. It can be quite difficult to defend if you're all stuck on the site, and it is a site and A main, and there's one player cat as well for TSM, so they are set up really well for this. As the retake comes through, TSM, indeed, the crossfires are working out.
Moves the last one alive with 58 health. Just going to back off, not really going to have a chance to do much of anything. Maybe, no, not even going to be able to keep his life. So TSM, again, just continue to pile it on. That's now 5 rounds in a row where they've been able to, in some form or fashion, really pick Luminosity apart. And it's been through the pistols. It's been through some hot and heavy hits that they may have not expected. It's been methodical as well. TSM just really showing themselves to be a complete package here.
Yeah, and we're looking for that momentum shift in favor of Luminosity, and a lot of teams do struggle on the defensive side to achieve that, especially when, you know, if we look at what TSM has been doing in this first 5 rounds of success, they've been showing patterns to Luminosity. So they're slowly conditioning Luminosity to expect certain things. And going into the next gun rounds, Luminosity are going to have all their ultimates available. So if they're going to turn around this half at any point, it's going to be that point. And they'll have to decide, do they use those ultimates aggressively in the early rounds to try and to disrupt TSM and what they're doing, or do they want to try to play the retake game again? And that's really how the decision making is going to shape out for them. But in this round, you know, like you were talking about before, Doug, it's just TSM running that anti-eco, and they know how to do it. They're slow and methodical, and they're not leaving anything to chance.
Yep, I mean, almost identical to what we saw last time, right? Sabrosa takes mid-control, smokes off the back. They establish that presence in case there's a rotate, depending on where they want to play. But Sabrosa may have a chance at one. No, Stellar with the Ghost getting the best of them. That's going to give mid-control over to Luminosity.
Yeah, that's a little scary because that's some information. It's a gun collected as well. And you can see that there's a gamble stack coming in through towards the A site because they're already Luminosity droned out B main, so they have a good sense of what's happening here. They've already started to rotate. Jeez. There's a Proto with the Sheriff, and it's looking quite grim now. Long-range Hunter's Fury coming into play, and it is a shutdown here. Luminosity doing an excellent job, and that's the skill that you were talking about earlier in the broadcast, Doug. You give them an opportunity and they're going to be able to make good use of it. Luminosity here surviving with 4 players so far.
Well, and Dan, like you mentioned, they're doing this around ahead of schedule, right? Like the plan was, let's do what we can here, and then we'll have guns the next round. We'll have 5 ultimates. We'll really be able to fight back. But the truth is, it was that opening pick onto Sabrosa. I genuinely believe that if that pick doesn't come through, you think real hard about whether or not you want to invest that Hunter's Fury. But those opening picks really allowed Luminosity to have a bit of wiggle room to go, okay, yeah, let's invest this. We're like in an advantageous position. We can go ahead and invest these key ultimates to get ahead of schedule.
Yeah, totally agree with you. That kill in mid was the last piece of the puzzle. They just droned through B main, so then they were like, oh, we know they're going A. They have to.
Right.
And that was everything. So great to see the timings work out for Luminosity, and maybe they can turn this half around at this point. Great pick from Thief. There goes the push through Catwalk. The trade's fast from Sabrosa. But 4 versus 4 would always typically favor the attackers, but we'll see how it actually pans out here. The rotation back through to collect the spike and finish on the B site, but it's actually quite well defended. It's a retake play for A here. So once again, Luminosity appear to be ahead of the game, but they're going to be dealing with the lockdown here. Hayes looking to plant this lockdown in B main, so he's going to have to settle for that one. And we'll see whether or not LG can hold them off.
Wait a sec. Okay, so there's no Hunter's Fury to be able to clear out the lockdown. That's going to give TSM a good bit of room. Now, keep in mind, there is one player who's going to get caught up in Boathouse. Interesting thing is, you normally see this because it's bait, right? It's exactly what a Proto can do right there. They try to go in because they think they have control, but there's somebody in spawn who's able to mow them down on the cross. TSM's just down to 2 members left. Luminosity in at least a numbers advantage as they try to take this site back. Moose is still anchoring things down, and he's as healthy as they come.
Doesn't know about Cutler's position, but doesn't matter. He still finds the headshot on the reaction, and it's going to be Luminosity holding on, and that's a beautiful, beautiful round again. And man, it's just as simple as that early round play, just getting that pick and just understanding that TSM only really have one good option. And ironically, that good option, if Luminosity understand what it is, doesn't become good anymore, as we see. So that's kind of the mind game element to this. And we'll see 2-5 now on the scoreboard for Luminosity as they start to whittle down the economy of TSM, who have finally pulled out the operator on Wardell.
And we'll see what he's able to do with that. Again, at 4-2, having himself a perfectly fine game. That early peak on a long, it's going to get smoked off, going to get tagged up, and it's going to be pushed back. TSM still showing some presence towards A. There's that paranoia. It looks like they might try to swing with it just enough to get some room and have Thief post up and run.
Nice trades coming through there, and there is actually some presence here on Catwalk. You can see that already Thief is feeling it. He's worried about it. Sabrosa's there. The push from Hayes in B main is not going to work out, and Luminosity looked like they were getting pinched, but again, they just understand what's going on, and they are expectant, and they deal with it beautifully well. Thief picking up another one, and TSM get totally shut down, and they're going to be forced to a save round finally. Speaking of a shift of momentum, all off the back of that one pistol rounds, we have Luminosity suddenly looking excellent.
Yeah, they're looking very good. TSM, as you mentioned, shouldn't... Well, they might be able to buy up a little bit. Here we see a couple of sheriffs, and we see some armor coming through. So it's not like they're going to walk in with nothing, but they certainly won't have nearly as much as they would like going up against the rifles and full armor from the boys over on LG. 3 rounds in a row now, 3 ultimates to work with as well. And as you mentioned, the tides have turned.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see what TSM plan to do here. They do have some ultimates available, but look at Thief go. That's great stuff again from Catwalk. The aggression works out so often for Thief. He's so confident, and you can see exactly why he's been placed on that Reyna. He gets the opportunities to take those fights and back away if he needs to with the dismiss. Wardell actually decides to pull out the knives in the 3 versus 5, knowing that a buy is in store for them in the next round. They still want to make this one hurt, though, for Luminosity, and we'll have to see if Wardell can catch something. But look at the discipline here from Luminosity. They are not putting anything to chance once again, just holding their ground. They got a 5 versus 3. They don't have to do anything special.
This will be interesting. Yeah, there's that swing. Oh, well, you didn't even really have to because Thief is just playing out of his mind. He gets 4 that round. Stellar gets the last one. A flawless round from LG. But now again, TSM has guns. They're also going to have 3 ultimates online. The Hunter's Fury from the Shadows and the Run It Back to hopefully, if you're a fan of TSM, swing the momentum back their way.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so crazy how good LG have looked. It's a combination of not just making the right guesses and getting the information at the right times and having enough time to rotate to deal with what's coming. It's they're hitting their shots as well. They're really looking on point and very sharp in that manner. So it's going to be a lot now for TSM to bring the momentum back for themselves. But they do have the Run It Back. They do have the Hunter's Fury in play. So we'll see what they can do here. It is a change of pace here. An early mid play. And, oh, there we go. Thief, he wanted to switch things up, but he gets caught.
Color's going to use the Hunter Fury's one. He's going to be good for one as Stellar drops. Drone dropping as well as Moose goes big. He goes for two, give him the third as he takes full control of the middle of the map and puts odds back in Luminosity's favor.
Oh no, it was looking so good initially for TSM, but it's all fallen apart. Moose in mid just catching that rotation through. That was huge. I can't believe it. It's one of those things where TSM, they've put so much pressure on their gun rounds, early on around A main or B main. Mid has been more about the mid round. But this last round, they go for that mid play in the early timings when there shouldn't really be much focus there. Maybe catch a cat push or maybe catch someone in market, but somehow Luminosity were ready for even that. So now it's the case that Luminosity aren't just reading the game really well. When there's things coming at them that they're not sure about, they're still able to react and look like it's just a complete class act. And that's not, I don't think, what Moose was going for.
No. May have gone a bit wide there. The Hunter's Fury does tag at least one. But that's all that's been done so far. Again, TSM trying to work the middle of the map. They've taken Catwalk. Looks like they're going to have some hot and heavy going around A. The run-it-back's going to come through along with the flash, but nobody's home quite yet. The Empress is going to be used. Okay, Drone didn't see him, but he got tagged up anyway. Thief was able to take him out, so they're going to have some of that information, but they're going to try to invest onto the A site anyway. Stellar's the first one there. He's going to take care of Sub Rosa as Thief continues to push the matter. Dre and Thief get one apiece. TSM down to 2.
Yeah, Thief still on that side, looking extremely dangerous. This guy cannot be stopped. Oh man, he played this round so well. The way that he's moving around the map too on the defensive setups is being really cool to see. Initially we saw him mostly towards Catwalk, and then he started mixing it up and moving around a lot more and being kind of unpredictable. And again, that's the benefit of Reyna. If you don't expect Reyna to appear, she takes a favorable duel, gets the kill, and just misses away, you got a 5 versus 4. And look at Thief go, man. 12 kills now, racking them up. And that's 6 rounds in a row for Luminosity. It's crazy to think, given how this started.
And you called for a momentum swing, Dan, and we got it. Again, Thief and Moose leading the charge for Luminosity as TSM have really looked lost ever since that pistol went sideways across the middle of the map. Again, TSM not going to have a ton to work with. Stellar using to run it back to create space across the middle of the map. There's the op from Ordell. So they got some info, at least on where the op is. But again, Luminosity, they just seem so comfortable and so disciplined, right? Like, they'll get information, they'll even get picks early on, but they stay home.
Yeah, and I like that the pace has changed a lot here for both teams. Both teams really taking this in a much more tentative fashion. Not a lot of information on the map at the moment for Luminosity. Obviously, they're going to feel that paranoia going through to the tree position. That will pull some rotation. We also have a push from Moose. They're in the dark cover, gaining some control of B main. Doesn't realize there's 2 players here, though. About to find out, and there goes the swing. Oh, that was close to a double. Fortunately for him, it will be denied, though, as we get a very forward position from Sub Rosa as well. What a great switch-up coming through from TSM. You have the lockdown as well coming, so that should secure the spike plant here. Luminosity must retake.
Sub Rosa's got to go big here because that's where that retake is going to be coming from. Thief able to take care of them. They're going to use the neural theft as well as the spike goes down. Now it's on LG in a 3v3 to try to create some space and try to get on there. But Wardell holding fast, takes care of Stellar, but a Pearl comes in from the side. It's just down to Thief. Thief, who's been an absolute madman for Luminosity with the opportunity to do it yet again, and Hayes stops it dead in its tracks. A 3K for TSM as we're knotted up at 6 apiece going into half. Folks, we're going to cut to a very quick break. When we return, culminating half on Ascent. Don't go anywhere. Dear friends, welcome back. Second half in front of us between TSM and Luminosity. A master spot up for grabs. Doug and Dan on the mic bringing you the action. Dan, initial thoughts on the first half. What surprised you?
Yeah, I think Luminosity, very resilient. They were struggling massively with gaining any ground and traction, and then they managed to find it off of a pistol. And so now they're looking really dangerous, really sharp, and we'll see if TSM can dull their blade as they look to try to get a good start off on this pistol with that B presence. Now, they've been slowed a little bit here. It looks like they're going to still try to force the issue. It can reset out, but they're going for it. They are confident.
Yeah, man. Stellar's gotten pushed back pretty badly. Yeah, he was super weak. He's going to drop at the hands of Stellar. TSM going to be forced to try to get this retake. And the difference is here, TSM can't comfortably move in through the middle of the map because of where the rain is. So if they swing that way, there's the Thief is on the other side waiting to give them the business. That forces them to be pseudo one-dimensional in how they try to take the site back.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like TSM are going to be receiving the same medicine as they dealt out in the first pistol in this series. And here it comes. Luminosity able to defend quite nicely so far. Well, will at least deal with Thief, who's been a huge problem so far, but it's a 2 versus 4 for TSM. It's looking very scary indeed. Time is of the essence. There may, in fact, not really be any time at this point. It's just down to getting some additional kills, some money in the bag, and they're going to be able to do that. And you know what? Wardell, getting those kills is huge. You know, charging up the knives, making sure he's got more money to be able to put into an operator if that's what he wants to do, is going to be, well, goodbye, Ghost, I guess. I don't know if that was intentional, but...
Well, and now he's 2 points away from the Bladestorm, right? There's a reality here in which he's able to farm one of the orbs, maybe get a pick, and all of a sudden you see this round go sideways. For Luminosity, you see them full armor, Spectres across the board. Now we'll see what TSM can do. It was pretty, right? It just wasn't enough for the defuse. It wasn't soon enough.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see if they can get any value out of this round, TSM. And we'll have to look at Luminosity and how they work their anti-eco, just as we were praising TSM, although it's actually because of being predictable on their anti-ecos of TSM that they actually end up losing one of those, which really turned everything around. But either way, we'll see how this works out for Luminosity. Some presence, some pressure, just trying to feel out what exactly is going on. If you can force a reaction with some utility that's predictable, that can go a long way in helping you to get some picks to open up a site in this situation like this. The drone is a good way, obviously, to clear out some of those more problematic positions. Or we get the wall coming through as well. I like that a lot, to protect the drone's passage through to clear the site.
Now, Luminosity, they've shown a bit, right? So the drone comes out over on A, at least enough to make them think, to make TSM think that that's where the hit's going to be. You see they have 3 members over there and 2 more rotating. Meanwhile, Luminosity have cut noise completely, and they've rotated all the way back over towards B, and Dan, nobody's home.
And I love that Luminosity left Phoenix, towards A main as well, because TSM will feel this delay and they'll be like, what, did they rotate off, or are they going to re-exec onto the A site? So it's actually quite likely that they would push that, but they don't in this instance. They're just stacking the A site. They were hoping that it would be a re-exec after the cutting of the noise from Luminosity, but Luminosity go for the B play. So this is just one of those spots where, you have to take a gamble if you're TSM. And this time it didn't work out, and they're in this situation where they can play aggressively for these either exit kills, or they can just go for the retake and just try to get some kind of damage.
Stellar going big there, and then a Proto and Thief are really able to continue to push the matter towards TSM as they're down to 2 members left. Again, it was the middle of the map. Stellar was late on the rotation intentionally. He created some more noise, made TSM think that that's where the hit might be. Once they realized that the gig was up, and the play was on B, he was able to take care of some of those rotators and really kind of take the wind out of TSM's sails on the attempted retake. LG going to take a 2-round lead here as we get further and further into the second half.
Yeah, and immediately Wardell on that operator. That's something that's super characteristic of TSM, getting the operator online as quickly as possible. And in the Stinger meta that we had, that did seem to be something that made this a lot more difficult for Wardell. So, and some people were commenting that was one of the reasons that TSM struggled a little bit more. They didn't say that, but enough about that. We'll hold that spot for now as the push comes through pretty aggressively here from Luminosity straight away into the B side. They are not wasting any time, pushing straight forward off of the run it back, creating so much space. Cutler back against the wall. Not much in this position to do, and he'll get at least 1. The spike will be planted there. 2 versus 3 here for TSM on this retake, though will be difficult.
And remember, Luminosity is on the bonus, right? They had nothing but Sheriffs and Spectres going into this round. Meanwhile, TSM had full arsenal, down to 2 members left. One of the more devastating players with an operator in his hands just goes a bit wide the first time as TSM continue to try to take the site. Wardell just down to 61 health left. And Luminosity, they're holed in there. Dan, you almost wonder if you're TSM, if you just try to play for exits and ruin it.
Yeah, definitely. With that operator as well, there's always the element that Wood gets one, can he get the second? Then they can go, and that's what we're talking about. Opportunity is there for TSM, just a brief one, but Wardell getting traded, that's what really created a situation here that made this unrecoverable. Naze can't escape, the door's down. Oh, that's so unfortunate. So everybody goes down here, so everybody's going to have to rebuy. That's unfortunate for these teams, but ultimately, of course, Luminosity will be quite happy in securing one more round on the board. 3 in a row on this half. So far, so good.
Yeah, I mean, really, this is how TSM started in a lot of ways. Again, the pistol was almost identical, a bit of deja vu, just inverted as far as who was doing what. Now, as we lead into the 4th round of the second half, TSM with pistols across the board. LG, I mean, for the most part, they're okay. Stellar, the one exception who's going to have the Spectre. You hear the Blade Storm has been used as Wardell tries to take the middle of the map. There's no one there on the peak, at least initially. There's one. He gets tagged up pretty badly. Has to get that.
Yeah, it's a little bit scary, definitely, Luminosity, but and they can also probably expect that Wardell will reposition. So you can't worry too much about what Wardell is doing in a situation like this. You just have to think, okay, well, what is the best execute that we can do here? Because they need to just get onto a site. Once the spike is down, it's going to be easy. But that's the difficulty here. You can see Wardell up on the rafters here, looking to do the damage, try to get rid of that flash there as he goes for the peak. Oh, the knives come out, not landing. But there we go. Haze onto the site, both jumping down now to try to get something to happen, but looking a little bit desperate at this point.
And Luminosity have to be careful, make sure this doesn't get out of hand. So far, looking so good. TSM down to 2 members left. Is Luminosity in firm control? They have the spike down. They have control of the site. They have gun advantage as well. But of course, it's in moments like these that insane plays happen like that. Like we almost saw. But Luminosity put them away. A 4-round lead. And Dan, the momentum has fully swung, right? It seems like an eternity ago that we were talking about TSM with their 6-round lead. Luminosity, they're clicking.
Yeah, and this is a really scary situation too, because we've got Moose and Stella 1 orb away from picking up their ultimates, and so that's something that they could, they're going to make a play for that. To just get one of those ults online. You're going to be looking to get that Phoenix ult online, I would imagine, over the Hunter's Fury, just because the Phoenix ult can sometimes just win you rounds, but it will guaranteed gain you some space or the opportunity to get that space. So it creates a reaction. And Gelato take coming through here. There's the paranoia. The dash not working out for TSM. Oof. They're still committed to it though. Leaving players in Wine as well as the A main position. This is scary territory for TSM now.
Dude, they read that like a book, right? They had the setup there, and you can tell that Luminosity was going to try to go for that ult orb. They try to counter it. It goes sideways. Stellar gets his hands on the rent it back anyway, but Sabrosa's in a spot where he can blow the play up if left unchecked. Stellar's run it back. Expires, and again, now here's Sabrosa on that flank. If this goes unchecked, could be problematic. You see members of Luminosity all starting to rotate over towards A. It looks like that's where they're going to want to go. Meanwhile, TSM, nobody on the site, but Sabrosa's going to get all the information that he could want.
Oh, this is so scary. This is all on this play here from Wine. This has to be... This is it. Sabrosa has to get a couple kills at least here. There's one. Is he going to find the others? He does at least just barely get Stella as well. And on top of that, it has slowed the push a little bit. So still having to take some time here, Luminosity, to clear the site. TSM have some opportunity here, some time, but a Proto with a very forward position tree is causing problems, but nothing that Haze can't handle. As the lockdown's ready to go for the retake in this 3v2, TSM, they could finally be taking a grip of this one.
Numbers advantage, and you see Luminosity have no choice but to really back up. They're going to take Hazed out for their troubles as they try to reset the situation. Lockdown no longer a problem. Cutler starts on the defuse, can't blast through it because the generator's there. He has to go in aggressive. Drone takes care of one, Drone takes care of the second. TSM take the round.
He's starting by that wall like the bouncer of a club, just denying entry left and right. And that's what you want to see. TSM back in the mix. And if you guys missed the brief pre-show that we did, with the best of 3 in the maps in front of us, we looked at it and we're like, okay, TSM look like this should be a 3-mapper. We start off on Ascent, should be quite favored for TSM. We go into Icebox. Luminosity should win Icebox, statistically speaking, and then we'll be on our last map. And it's looking like Luminosity want to flip the script here because they're looking extremely dangerous right now on Ascent, and TSM, they're going to feel that pressure. They know Icebox is going to be hard. They've got to get this Ascent in the bag.
Empress online, from the shadows online as well for Luminosity. We've seen how devastating Thief can be when he gets something going. Keep a close eye on that ultimate as he makes his way up towards A. Meanwhile, the Spike moseying around the middle of the map, peeking to see if Luminosity can gather any information before making a play.
Liking the creep up catwalk here. Drone there as well, always good to clear some of those spots, get the information. Drone is a pretty strong sign of intent as well. When you're on the defensive side, it does give you a lot of information. Right now, of course, TSM are feeling that, okay, we're losing tree, we're losing catwalk. However, just as TSM did to Luminosity, you can use this to pull rotation of the defenders to the A side, and you can hit up that B site instead, or that mid control. But look at that, Beast going forward through A, trying to creep towards that site, knowing that more presence would be around tree. It's taken down. There's another kill going the way of TSM, retaking the tree position. Maybe it seems like at this point, Luminosity well overstayed their welcome in that tree area, and now they have to go for a desperation rotation, and B really is the only option at this point.
Well, and the thing is, Dan, it was never an option, right? Like, even with all of the noise, we talked about them trying to draw rotations to A. TSM held fast. They kept both members on B. They have one back in Boathouse. Now we'll see if they can keep things at bay. Hayes is one of the ones there. Drones are as well. Fancy footwork around the Paranoia. So Rosa takes care of one. Drone back in Boathouse looking for a second, but it's actually Hayes on the sucker punch that takes care of a Proto. TSM so disciplined. Despite all of the eye candy, despite all of the noise that was thrown their way, they stay at their assignments and they take care of LG in that round.
Yeah, that was beautiful. That was really well done. I was really curious as to how that tree situation was going to go because again, there's so much you can do off of it. It is an area of the map that when you lose it as the defenders, it feels really bad. But as the attackers, you don't have to commit off of it. You can just abuse the fact that it does impact rotation so heavily. It's very much like Dust 2 for people that are coming from Counter-Strike. It's very similar in the way that map control plays. But we'll see now. Luminosity, we've got some sheriffs in the mix. It's not looking too good. This could be we talked about momentum shifts, and this is TSM's chance now. Can they make it look as good as Luminosity did? We're about to find out. And you can see that TSM are happy to give up the B site. They understand that this is a likely position for a rush, and they would be right to think that.
Gray gonna work his way into the back. Here the run it back has been used. Cutler able to take care of Stellar. Numbers advantage over towards TSM. They also have the Hunter's Fury in mind as they try to retake B. They've got all the personnel they could want. We'll see how they handle the sheriffs and like how brutal Luminosity can be with pistols because of things like that.
Yeah, you need the Hunter's Fury to get rid of a Proto, man. That guy is ridiculous. He is so insane. And that one Deagle shot, or sorry, Sheriff shot, I should say, is going to cause so many problems here. There comes the push straight in, and just 1, 2, 3, and 4, just like that. The dominoes fall, and Luminosity crush the retake attempt with nothing but the pistols. That is truly insane. And we talked about TSM's momentum and how important it was, and whether it could look as good as Luminosity. And I think the X factor, again, this is what you were talking about, Doug, earlier. The X factor of Luminosity is the ridiculous amount of individual skill, and that's what just won them that round.
Dude, you put like a sheriff in their hands, and you think, well, okay, whatever. But for a lot of these guys, that's an 800 credit operator, right? They're just so good with it, and they've done it consistently. This is not a flash in the pan. If you've been watching Luminosity for a long time, them with sheriffs, it's like another day, another dollar, right? They can do that over and over again.
Yep, and that's something that, again, we talked about, what is it that TSM have to deal with that? And it's their experience, ultimately, knowing that they, not to get thrown off by these kind of cracked aimers, knowing that they're going to lose rounds like that. That's just going to happen. You got to hold your hands up and just accept it. you can't do much about it. And we've got an interesting play here from TSM because they got Wardell looking down from cat to top mid, and now he's looking towards tiles as well. So some good info there as far as TSM are concerned. Still somewhat of a retake setup here with a very committed play from Drone. The flash goes through, just one frag though. TSM are looking not too bad after that extra one from Hazed, and his turret's going to pick up one as well. So TSM, they could stop this.
My gosh, they stuffed it, man. Like, the flash was there. It was beautiful. Hazed had a great crossfire. Luminosity still tried. They still try, right? They get in. Moose gets the spike down, but he's a dead man walking. A 4K for Hazed. They sniffed it out, Dan. They had a perfect read on where the play was, and they just blew it up.
Yeah, I really like the way that they played it because it looks like a retake setup, but you're committing one player with the flash, with the curveball, to try to find a timing with that flash. And if that play gets value, even one kill there can be really huge. Because also you don't necessarily know, like in a game like Valorant, like which agent you're going to take down. But depending on the agent, it can have really huge repercussions. Right. If it's an agent that's going to be very useful for defending that site against a retake. So regardless, really great heads-up play from TSM in that round to deal with what was coming. And it seems like TSM have a pretty good understanding of what's going on. We saw that they had the info. Wardell peering down that catwalk position with the operator, and he's still going to be an issue. We've yet to really see that operator on Wardell cause huge problems, but he's gaining information if he's not gaining frags.
Well, and you saw him in the previous round, right? Top Cat, he was able to hold the middle of the map really, and by process of elimination, TSM had a good idea of where they were. They guessed, and bam, that's exactly where they were. So keep a close eye on Wardell on that operator. Again, Luminosity here with 3 ultimates. They have full guns here. This should be a good one. They're looking like they're setting up for an A split, trying to take some tree control. A lobby control. Your boy Dre, there's the paranoia. You imagine that's going to be the cue to follow up, but Wardell does it through the paranoia as he takes care of Stellar. Moose going to use 100 Fury to try to create some more space, but you see, even with that in mind, now they're getting onto the site. They should have control of A. They should be able to get the spike down, and it's going to be on TSM to fight for the retake.
Yeah, and you know, talking of big picks, that's a Phoenix going to run it back, ready to go out of the action there, thanks to that kill from Wardell. And you can see that TSM are focusing on getting those picks and then giving up the site and playing retake. That's really where it's been coming, and it's because of stuff like this lockdown that's available. Now, this 1v1 is huge. Omen versus Omen, Omen diff moment. We'll see exactly how that goes in a moment here, as we'll see the lockdown actually getting destroyed. That's unfortunate.
Dre goes big. He was never caught in the smoke. He's able to get one, and that's going to pull members of TSM back to have to deal with him. You can't ignore him. He gets another one. Your boy Dre goes huge. He gets 3. Luminosity gets map point.
The timing.
I'm so sorry I cut you off.
I know, it's all good. There's so much happening at once. We get the lockdown destroyed, and I think that was the moment as well that we saw Sabrosa just pulling away from that cat position, because you could tell that he was waiting for that. He had a very good idea that there had to be a player catwalk. It's such a strong play because of the timings. That, you know, when a team's going on that retake and they've got tree control on their retake, dealing with A-main's pretty easy if you can just drop a smoke there. So then the players on site are isolated and it's almost impossible. But that cat player, time and again, will be the difference maker in winning you those rounds. And that's exactly what happened there. Your boy Drake comes up huge, and Luminosity now on map point, 12 against 9. TSM, they're in so much trouble. They have some ults to work off of, though. They've got the run it back available on drone, and they also have the blade storm, which has been popped. So TSM, they've got a lot to answer for in this round. Otherwise, they are done here in map 1.
I have retrieved Spike.
A difficult mountain to climb for the boys on the defensive side, and Luminosity, as we've mentioned throughout the map, have looked so good, right? They've looked good in rifles. They've looked good in pistols. They've shown the ability to be patient, even as we just saw with Dre, right? Like, he sat in that smoke the entire time. He even saw Sabrosa shoot through the smoke, didn't get tagged, didn't respond, didn't shoot back, just held fast, and he was the one who blew the play up. Now, there's no attention over towards Tree, no attention towards A. Everything is being invested towards B. You hear the run it back. Has been used. Wardell doesn't even get a chance as TSM's just down to 3 members left. There's the run it back. It goes offline. The third is going to use the neural theft to try to give everything away. Hayes drops. 2 left for TSM as the Proto should get the spike down.
Spike planted.
So Broza here, always going to get eliminated, leaving just Carla every single shot. Look at this, the skill differential in just this round and some of the other rounds too is just incredible to witness. Luminosity, I don't know, man, what they've been doing before this game is working. They are hitting their shots, and they're going to pick up that first round, that first